Scorpio, tonight you're not just listening, you're remembering. You've been feeling it for years now. Haven't you? That invisible heaviness behind your ribs, that pressure that makes you sigh even when the room is quiet. That ache that never really goes away no matter how much you sleep, pray, or try to forget. You've blamed it on life, on love, on luck. But deep down, you've always known it was something older, deeper, almost ancient, something your soul agreed to before this lifetime even began. And that something, Scorpio, is the karmic weight you've been carrying like armor and chain all at once. Tonight, you're going to understand why you were chosen for it and why the universe is finally preparing to take it off your shoulders. From the moment you were born, you've been the one who felt everything too deeply. You could sense lies before words were even spoken, feel betrayal before it arrived, and detect danger in the silence of others' smiles. It's not paranoia, it's legacy. You were built from the ashes of your past lives, lives where you once held power over others' hearts and used it recklessly. Lives where you controlled what wasn't yours to hold, where you took love and twisted it until it served your will. The universe does not punish, Scorpio. It educates. And in this life, you were born to learn how to hold power without hurting, how to love without owning, how to rise without burning everything behind you. That is your karmic contract. But let's be honest, it's been hell. You've loved people who couldn't love you back because their fear mirrored your old shadows. You've poured your entire being into connections that left you hollow. You've built walls, torn them down, and rebuilt them higher, only to realize that no fortress could keep pain out because it was already living inside you. You've seen betrayal wearing the face of friendship, manipulation disguised as love, and loss that came dressed as destiny. And yet you stayed soft. You stayed loyal even when loyalty tasted like poison. You kept giving even when your hands trembled from exhaustion. You kept believing that all of this had to mean something. And it does. Every heartbreak, every sleepless night, every moment when you thought you were cursed was you, paying off a debt. In past lives, you may have been the destroyer of trust, the puppeteer who pulled strings from the shadows, but this time, you were born to feel the full spectrum of what your power once caused. You were born to experience loss so profound that it rebuilt your empathy from the inside out. The universe needed you to remember what pain feels like so that you'd never inflict it again, not even in silence, not even by accident. There's a reason Scorpio's symbol is the scorpion, and beyond it, the phoenix. You were never meant to simply live, you were meant to die and resurrect within one lifetime. Again and again, until the soul underneath the armor shines without distortion. Every betrayal was a burning price. Every disappointment, a funeral for a past version of you. And every time you thought, this is it, I can't survive this one, you did not because fate was kind, but because your spirit refused to end where pain began. That's what makes you terrifying and magnificent all at once. You survived transformation that would destroy anyone else. You've wondered why people fear you, even when you mean no harm. It's because they sense the truth. You carry the one that strips away illusions. You are the mirror that forces others to see themselves as they really are. And mirrors, Scorpio, are rarely loved. That's part of your karmic tax to walk among liars and never become one. To be surrounded by people who take without giving and still choose not to close your heart completely. You've been the healer who never gets healed, the protector no one protects, the lover who bleeds quietly so others can smile. And the universe has been watching every silent act of endurance, every tear you refuse to let fall in front of others. All of it was recorded. All of it counts. Now, the scales are beginning to balance. The universe never forgets a Scorpio who has kept their soul intact through fire. When your karmic cycle starts to close, You'll feel it first as silence, not emptiness, but peace. The chaos that once surrounded you begins to dissolve. The people who constantly drained you will fade away without conflict. The opportunities you once had to chase will start to come to you naturally. You'll wake one morning and realize you don't need to prove anything to anyone, not your worth, not your love, not your strength. That's how you'll know the debt is nearly paid. But before freedom comes, there's always a final test. For you, Scorpio, it's trust. The universe will ask if you can open your heart again after everything. It will send you someone or something that mirrors your deepest wounds, not to hurt you, but to show you that you can now choose differently. You'll feel the old fear rise, that whisper that says, "Don't trust, you'll regret it." But this time, you'll breathe through it and act from love, not fear. That's the moment your karmic chains break. That's when you stop living under old vows of pain and step into the version of you that doesn't just survive, it creates, it heals, it reigns. There's something sacred about the way Scorpio ends and begins. You are the only sign that rules both death and rebirth. While others fear endings, you see them as invitations. That's why your life has been full of closures, relationships that end abruptly, jobs that collapse without warning, friends who disappear overnight. It's never punishment. It's the universe forcing you to shed what cannot rise with you. You were not meant to live in half-light. You were meant to become the storm, the silence after, and the seed that blooms in the ashes. So if you're listening to this now, feeling the pull in your chest, the trembling behind your calm, that's your soul recognizing truth. You are nearing the end of a karmic era that began long before this lifetime. You've paid your dues in tears, in silence, in surrender. And now, everything begins to shift. The universe will return every ounce of love you gave, multiplied. It will send you people who match your depth, not your wounds. It will open doors you thought were forever closed. Because Scorpio, when you've paid your karmic debt, you don't just get rewarded, you get reborn. When you finally rise from the ruins of your old self, you won't crave revenge or validation. You'll crave peace. You'll understand that your true power was never in control. But in surrender, you'll look back at the years of struggle and whisper, "I see it now. Every pain had a purpose." And in that moment, you'll feel lighter than you ever have, not because life became easy, but because your soul became free. This is not the end of your story. This is the end of your punishment. What comes next will feel like breathing for the first time after lifetimes underwater. You've survived the shadow. Scorpio, now it's time to learn how to live in the light and to finally, unapologetically, receive what's been waiting for you all along. Scorpio, the universe has a way of testing those it intends to crown. It doesn't hand you your freedom wrapped in gold. It disguises it as destruction. It shows up as the moment when everything you thought you'd already overcome returns darker, sharper, closer than before. It comes when you start to feel like you've healed, when you finally allowed yourself to breathe again, when the storm has seemed to pass. That's when it whispers, "Are you sure you've learned?" And for Scorpio, the only way to prove it is through pain that looks familiar but no longer owns you. This test isn't just emotional, it's spiritual surgery. It rips open wounds you thought had scarred, just to see if you'll bleed from them again. It might arrive as a person who reminds you of the one who betrayed you, or an opportunity that smells like the same trap you once fell into. It could come as silence from someone you trusted, rejection after effort, or the collapse of something you thought was finally stable. You'll stand there, staring at the ruins, wondering why the universe is cruel enough to repeat your worst memories. But it isn't cruelty, it's confirmation. The universe repeats lessons until your soul's response changes, until the pain no longer dictates your choice. You'll feel it in your chest first. That mix of fury and exhaustion that says, "I can't do this again." You'll want to shut down, to numb yourself, to become cold because it feels safer. But this time, the real power lies in staying open. In the past, you protected yourself by withdrawing into silence, disappearing into your own shadow, pretending not to care. But the karmic test of a healed Scorpio is this: can you stay soft in the face of everything that once hardened you? Can you love again without fear? Trust again without proof? Hope again without control? That is what determines whether you're still bound or already free. When this test arrives, it won't feel like growth. It'll feel like betrayal by life itself. You might lose something you thought was part of your destiny, a relationship, a dream, a sense of belonging. You'll question everything, the signs you followed, the prayers you said, even the faith that carried you. You'll think, I did the work. I paid my dues. Why is this happening again? And the universe will remain silent. Because the answer is not meant to be spoken, it's meant to be lived. The silence itself is your final teacher, pushing you to find trust, not in outcomes, but in yourself. You see, Scorpio, your karmic debt was never about punishment. It was about power. And power, in your case, has always been emotional mastery. The universe gave you intensity, passion, obsession, to love that burns through bone because your soul was strong enough to hold it. But in this final test, it asks you to prove that you can feel without being consumed, to desire without destroying, to walk away without needing to win. This is the hardest test for a heart like yours, the one that loves until it becomes the fire. There will come a night perhaps soon when you'll find yourself alone, trembling not from fear, but from the enormity of what you're releasing. You'll realize that every person who left, every promise that broke, every door that slammed shut, was not rejection but redirection. You'll see how the universe orchestrated loss not to punish you, but to make space for something you couldn't have carried before. You'll understand that healing was never about getting things back, but about remembering who you are without them. That night, you'll cry, but your tears will feel different, softer, lighter, almost holy. They won't come from pain. They'll come from relief. Because here's the truth, most never tell you the final karmic test doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. It shows you what was never truly you to begin with, the anger, the guilt, the endless responsibility for other people's happiness. You'll see those fragments fall away like cracked armor. And beneath them, there you are, naked, luminous, untamed, but no longer afraid. The world will not understand this version of you. They'll say, you've changed. You'll smile quietly because you know you've simply remembered. After this breaking, the energy around you begins to shift. The same people who once drained you will find they can't reach you anymore. Their words won't sting. Their silence won't wound. You'll stop chasing closure because you'll realize you were the closure all along. You'll stop replaying the past because the pain no longer echoes inside you. The triggers that once ruled your emotions will dissolve into stillness, and that stillness, that calm power, will scare those who once controlled you through chaos. That's when you'll know the test is over. And then, almost quietly, life begins to unfold again. New people appear, but they feel different. Softer, safer, slower. They ask nothing from you except your presence. Opportunities return, but this time, you don't chase them. They align with your peace. You'll begin to notice that what used to exhaust you now feels effortless. What used to break you now simply passes through you, leaving no wound behind. That's karmic freedom. Scorpio, not the absence of darkness, but your ability to walk through it untouched. The universe will reward you in small, subtle ways at first. You'll start seeing repeating numbers, hearing songs that feel like messages, meeting people who mirror your healed energy. You'll receive unexpected apologies, blessings, money, recognition, not as coincidence, but as confirmation. These are signs that your frequency has changed, that your soul no longer vibrates at the level of lessons, but of creation. You've graduated from the school of suffering, but remember, every transformation has a shadow. Some people will resent your peace. They'll call you distant, arrogant, selfish, because they can no longer feed on your old wounds. Don't explain yourself. Don't justify your boundaries. The universe isn't asking you to shrink back into the version of you who needed to be understood. It's asking you to embody the version who understands without needing approval. You don't owe anyone access to your healed self. So if you find yourself standing in the ashes again, don't panic. You've been here before. But this time, the fire belongs to you. This time, you're not the one being burned. You're the one doing the burning, purifying everything that was never meant to stay. The universe breaks you not to end you, but to ensure that when you rise, there's no residue of fear left in your bones. You will rise cleaner, calmer, wiser, and infinitely freer. And when the test finally ends, you'll look back and understand why it had to happen exactly as it did. You'll see that every heartbreak was a doorway to your rebirth. Every ending, a rehearsal for resurrection. You'll feel gratitude, not the naive kind that denies pain, but the powerful kind that honors it. You'll whisper to the universe, I see it now. You were never trying to destroy me. You were teaching me how to never destroy myself again. That, Scorpio, is the test that breaks you before it frees you. The last gate before the light, and as you step through it, trembling but unafraid, you'll realize something breathtaking. You were never meant to escape the fire. You were meant to become it. Scorpio. Every soul that survives the fire must one day face the mirror. Not the one made of glass, but the one that hides inside you, the one you've been avoiding for as long as you've been alive. You can outrun people. You can change cities. You can rewrite stories. But the mirror will always wait. It appears when the silence is too deep, when the world stops demanding things from you, when you can no longer distract yourself with survival. It doesn't speak. It reflects. And for someone like you, who has built a kingdom of strength and secrecy, that reflection can be terrifying. This is the part of the journey where the universe doesn't test you with loss or pain anymore. It tests you with truth, the truth of who you are when you take away the masks of power, of control, of endless resilience. The truth that you are not just the survivor, you are also the one who caused your own suffering by refusing to let go. This mirror doesn't show your face. It shows your patterns. It shows every time you tried to save someone to avoid saving yourself. Every time you stayed where love had already died because you feared starting over. Every time you confused control for care and silence for peace. It shows your wounds not as enemies, but as the very map that led you here. You'll hate it at first, because Scorpio doesn't like to be seen not fully. You've learned since childhood that privacy is protection, that mystery is safety. You hide your softness behind sarcasm, your longing behind ambition, your fear behind fire. You tell yourself it's power, but deep down, it's armor. And this mirror breaks armor. It will not flatter you, but it will free you. It will whisper that the things you thought made you unlovable are the very things that make you human. It will remind you that you never needed to be perfect to be worthy. You only needed to be real. You will resist. At first, you'll feel that old instinct to turn away, to distract yourself with work, lovers, plans, noises. But the mirror doesn't chase. It waits. It knows that eventually you'll be too tired to run. And when that moment comes, when the exhaustion outweighs the fear, you'll finally look. And in that single act of looking, everything begins to change. You'll see not a monster, not a martyr, but a human being who has been trying to do right in a world that taught you love through pain. You'll see the child who was told to be strong before they ever learned to be safe. You'll see how your intensity was never a curse, but a desperate form of love. And that's when you'll understand the person you've been fighting all this time was never the enemy. It was the wounded version of you asking to be held. As you face this mirror, the past begins to lose its power. Those memories that once haunted you will start to blur at the edges. You'll realize you no longer need them to define you. The apologies you never received will no longer matter, because you'll see that forgiveness isn't something you give others, it's something you give yourself. So the chains finally fall. You'll start to remember not what broke you, but what rebuilt you. The mirror will show you that strength isn't about not crying, it's about having cried enough to finally stop hiding from your own tears. And then something miraculous happens. The mirror begins to soften, the harsh light becomes warm, you'll start to recognize the beauty in the very traits you once hated. Your sensitivity, your suspicion, your endless need to understand everything, all of it begins to make sense. You weren't obsessive. You were searching for safety. You weren't cold. You were protecting the last bit of warmth you had left. You weren't controlling. You were terrified of chaos because you lived inside it for too long. And once you see that, compassion blooms. Not for others this time, but for yourself. And that compassion, that quiet, trembling love for the self you once rejected is the real alchemy. It's the moment your soul begins to heal from the inside out. People often say Scorpios are mysterious, but that mystery has always been a disguise for pain. When you face the mirror, you begin to realize that your mystery isn't about hiding anymore, it's about depth. You don't need to conceal who you are. You need to honor it. You'll understand that the darkness you've been afraid of is not your enemy, it's your birthplace. It's where your empathy was forged, where your intuition was sharpened, where your ability to transform was born. The mirror shows you that the darkness isn't something to escape. It's something to integrate. As you accept this, your energy changes in ways that others can feel before you even speak. Your presence becomes magnetic not because you're trying to attract, but because you're finally aligned. The universe loves authenticity, and once you stop pretending, it begins to move mountains for you. You'll notice that the same people who once drained you now seem distant, like they exist on another frequency. The chaos that once followed you like a shadow begins to quiet. That's because you've stopped feeding it. The mirror taught you that what you focus on multiplies, and you're done multiplying pain. Soon, you'll realize that the mirror isn't something outside of you anymore. It has merged with your soul. You'll carry it with you, not as judgment, but as wisdom. You'll see people for who they are without needing to fix or change them. You'll love without clinging, forgive without forgetting, and walk away without hating. That is the mark of a Scorpio who has faced themselves and lived, and the world will notice. They'll feel something different when they're near you, a peace wrapped in mystery, a fire that doesn't burn but warms. They won't be able to explain it, but they'll be drawn to it. That's because the most powerful version of Scorpio isn't the one who hides in the dark or fights through it. It's the one who becomes the bridge between light and shadow, who knows both and fears neither. When you finally step away from that inner mirror, your reflection will still linger, following you like a silent blessing. Every time you doubt yourself, it will whisper, "Remember who you are." Every time you start to fall back into old habits, it will reflect what you've already overcome. You'll never again be fully lost. Because once you've looked into your own depths, no darkness outside of you can scare you. And that, Scorpio, is the gift of the mirror. It doesn't show perfection. It shows truth. And truth, your truth, is the light that will lead you through everything that comes next. Scorpio, by now you've learned that not every battle is meant to be won. Some are meant to be understood. The deeper you've gone into your own truth, the more you've realized that the real enemy was never outside of you. It was the shadow within the part of you that was born from fear, from abandonment, from betrayal, so old it feels like it came from another lifetime, and maybe it did. Because Scorpio does not carry wounds. Scorpio carries legacies. The shadows that live in you are ancient, and they do not need to be destroyed. They are here to be forgiven. You've spent lifetimes trying to control them. Every plan you made, every person you tried to fix, every emotion you tried to hide, it was all an attempt to control what felt uncontrollable. The pain, the chaos, the endings that always seemed to come too soon, you thought if you could just hold everything tight enough, you wouldn't lose it. But control, Scorpio, is the language of fear, and fear has never brought you peace. It only dressed your wounds in gold, making them look like strength while they quietly bled underneath. This part of your story is about compassion, not the easy kind that forgives others from a safe distance, but the kind that sits with the broken parts of yourself and whispers, "You don't have to hide anymore." The kind that lets your old shadows speak. Because they will when you stop trying to silence them. They will tell you things you don't want to hear, that you loved people not because they deserved it, but because you needed to prove you could save them. That you stayed in pain because pain was familiar, that you mistook loyalty for worth. They'll tell you that your intensity, your jealousy, your obsession, all of it was just the shadow's desperate attempt to feel safe in a world that once took everything away. Don't hate those truths when they come. Hold them like you would a trembling child. Because that's all they ever were, the child within you. Terrified of being abandoned again. The part of you that learned to control because no one ever stayed when you were soft. The part that became fierce because gentleness was punished. You've carried that child in silence for too long. Protecting the world from their screams when you should have been listening to them. This is where the healing happens. Scorpio, when you stop exiling your shadow and start loving it home, you'll notice that when you begin to show compassion to these inner parts, your outer world starts to change in mysterious ways. People who used to trigger you suddenly lose their power. Situations that once sent you spiraling now pass through you like waves. You'll feel a strange peace even when life feels uncertain. Because you've made peace with the chaos inside. That's the paradox of Scorpio. The moment you stop needing control is the moment everything falls perfectly into place. The universe mirrors your surrender. It bends around your softness. But make no mistake, this compassion will feel like dying at first. It will ask you to drop the weapons that once saved you, the sarcasm, the distance, the silence, the control. You'll feel naked without them. As if you've walked into the world without skin. And yet, the universe will rush to protect what you once had to guard alone. Because when you choose compassion, you align with love, and love is the only force stronger than fear. As you move through this stage, you might feel the urge to isolate again. It's natural. Compassion requires quiet. It's not about performing forgiveness or declaring enlightenment. It's about sitting with yourself in the raw, unfiltered silence where truth can finally breathe. You might cry more in this phase than you have in years, not from sadness, but from release. Every tear is a message to the universe. I am no longer fighting myself. One day soon, you'll look around and realize that the people drawn to you are different now. They're not here to take from you or test you. They're here to meet you, to walk beside you, to mirror your healed energy, not your wounds. You'll notice conversations become softer, arguments rarer, love easier. It's not that life suddenly becomes perfect. It's that you no longer need to control what happens. You trust it. You trust yourself. And this trust is what transforms you. Scorpio's power has always come from transformation. But this one is different. It's not born from survival. It's born from softness. You'll realize that compassion doesn't make you weaker, it makes you untouchable. No one can manipulate a person who no longer fears their own emotions. No one can control someone who has nothing left to hide. That's when you finally understand that real strength is not domination, it's understanding. Real mastery is not control, it's acceptance. You'll start to see your shadows as companions rather than curses. The jealousy that once consumed you now becomes sensitivity to energy. The obsession that once scared people away now becomes devotion to your purpose. The darkness that once made you feel dangerous now becomes the depth that makes you magnetic. Every part of you that you once tried to destroy reveals itself as sacred. You were never meant to be light alone. You were meant to be the whole spectrum, the fire, the water, the silence, and the song. When compassion becomes your default, something miraculous happens. Life begins to trust you back. The universe, which once seemed to test you endlessly, now starts to work with you. You'll notice opportunities align with your peace rather than your fear. Love feels easy again. Like breathing. You'll stop asking why me and start whispering, thank you. That's the moment when your karmic cycle truly ends. Because karma doesn't end when you're repaid, it ends when you no longer respond from the wound. So, Scorpio, when your shadow rises again, and it will, don't fight it. Don't run. Sit with it. Say, I see you. I know why you're here. You're safe now. And watch what happens. The shadow dissolves into light. The storm turns into stillness. The warrior becomes the healer. Because in the end, the shadow never wanted control. It wanted compassion. And once you give it that, you'll realize something extraordinary. You were never divided at all. Every version of you, light and dark, was always trying to find its way home to love. Scorpio, every lifetime you have ever lived, every tear, every heartbreak, every betrayal that carved its initials into your soul has been leading here. This moment, this quiet, trembling point between what was and what will be, you've walked through every circle of fire, faced the mirror, held your shadow until it stopped shaking. And now there is nothing left to prove. What remains is the truth that has always waited beneath the ashes. You were never meant to be the wound, you were meant to be the resurrection. The rebirth doesn't arrive with fireworks. It comes gently, like the first breath after drowning. Like dawn slipping through the cracks of a night that thought it would never end. It begins the day you wake up and realize that the pain has stopped echoing. The silence feels soft now. Not lonely. You no longer need to armor yourself before stepping into the world. You just exist fully, freely, without needing to be understood. That's how you know the old self has finally burned away. What rises in its place isn't a stranger. It's the version of you that has always been waiting for permission to live. This rebirth is different from all the transformations before. It doesn't demand that you fight. It asks you to flow. It doesn't call for sacrifice. It invites ease. You'll notice it in small moments. First, laughter returning without effort. Joy sneaking back into places where grief once lived. The way your body feels lighter, even when nothing around you has changed. That's because your soul has released everything that wasn't yours to carry. The karmic contracts, the ancestral weights, the lifetimes of trying to earn love that was already yours, all of it dissolves the moment you choose peace over punishment. And as you rise, the universe begins to respond differently. It no longer sends lessons wrapped in loss. It sends blessings disguised as beginnings. Doors that once refused to open now swing wide with no resistance. People enter your life not to test you, but to grow with you. Love returns. But it's cleaner now, less of a battlefield, more of a sanctuary. You'll meet souls that match your healed frequency. People who see you not as something to fix, but as something to cherish. The connection will feel easy, almost sacred, because it is. You earned it not by suffering, but by choosing to keep your heart open even when it bled. You'll also notice that your intuition sharpens in a way that feels supernatural. You'll begin to sense what's right for you before logic can explain it. That's not magic. Scorpio, that's alignment. The more you live in truth, the more the universe whispers directions you can finally hear. You'll find yourself in the right places at the right times, saying yes to what nourishes you and no to what drains you without guilt or hesitation. You won't question it anymore, because you'll know that you are not being guided. You are the guidance. You become one with the current that used to carry you through chaos. Now you flow with it, not against it. And with that alignment comes abundance, not the empty kind that fades with applause, but the real one, the kind that feels like security in your bones, laughter that echoes for no reason, mornings that taste like freedom. The world will start to mirror your healed energy. Money flows, not because you chase it, but because your energy is no longer leaking through old wounds. Recognition arrives, not because you seek it, but because light cannot hide. And the best part, you no longer need any of it to feel whole. You receive it with gratitude, not dependency. You can finally enjoy success without fearing it will be taken away, because you've learned that nothing real can ever be lost. This is where Scorpio's legend truly begins, the phase of the phoenix. Every ending you've endured was a rehearsal for this flight. You've learned to walk through destruction with grace, to hold yourself through grief, to see beauty in what broke you. Now, when life sends new challenges, you won't shatter, you'll transform. That's your birthright. You are the sign of regeneration, the keeper of life's deepest mysteries. You understand death because you've lived it without dying. You understand love because you've loved without being loved back and still refuse to close your heart. You've mastered the art of being reborn. And yet, Scorpio, the most beautiful part of this rebirth isn't power, it's peace. For the first time in lifetimes, your soul is still. The urge to prove, to win, to control, to know it fades. You no longer chase meaning, you embody it. You don't need to predict the future, because you finally trust it. You understand now that destiny was never about what you were supposed to achieve, it was about who you were meant to become. You've become that. The healer, the alchemist, the one who turns pain into purpose and fear into faith. People will look at you differently now. They'll sense the calm in your eyes, the quiet strength that no longer needs validation. Some will be drawn to it, others will be intimidated by it. Let them be. You no longer exist for their understanding. You exist for your truth, and your truth is luminous. It radiates through every word, every breath, every small act of kindness you offer. You've become the safe space you once searched for. You've become the home. The universe celebrates this version of you, not with grand gestures, but with synchronicities so precise, they take your breath away. You'll hear your favorite song at the exact moment you need it. You'll cross paths with someone whose story mirrors your own healing. You'll find yourself in the right place without knowing how you got there. These aren't coincidences. They are confirmations. The universe speaks to you now because you've learned its language, faith, and as you move forward, you'll realize that rebirth isn't a single event, it's a rhythm. You'll shed and bloom and shed again. But the difference now is that you'll no longer fear the falling apart, you'll welcome it. Because you understand that every death carries new life within it. You've stopped clinging to permanence and started dancing with change. That's the real freedom, not immortality, but the courage to begin again. One evening, perhaps months from now, you'll stand somewhere quiet, maybe under the moon, maybe by the sea, and you'll feel it. That stillness in your chest, that expansion in your lungs, you'll realize that for the first time and longer than you can remember, you are not waiting for anything, not for love, not for closure, not for permission. You are simply here alive and whole, radiant, and a whisper will rise inside you. So soft, it sounds like a prayer. I made it. You did. Through every storm, every silence, Every test that tried to convince you otherwise, you made it. You turned your pain into wisdom, your wounds into gateways, your endings into beginnings. The karmic chains are gone. The debts are cleared. The fire has become your light. And now, Scorpio, as the universe opens its arms, as life unfolds in ways you no longer need to force. Remember this, your story was never about suffering. It was about becoming sacred through it. You were never meant to be ordinary. You were meant to be eternal. And now, finally, you are.